Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and friends. And indeed, I did bring some friends with me today, ladies and gentlemen, as we always do on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, I'm here with Hargeet Chani and Kay Asante. And folks, we got breaking news. The numbers are in for Xbox's quarterly. And guess what? Xbox is dead, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. They're dying. Amy Hood is going to sell the brand for pennies on the dollar. And no, they're not dead, folks. But you are going to hear in the next couple of days that they are dead, thanks to the trolls of the interwebs. We're going to get into those numbers. And of course, the header of today's show is the Xbox Fusion, well, at least that's what I'm calling it, could have a full 4-year jump on PlayStation's PS6. We're going to get into all of that. And of course, we do have another story where Xbox, or more specifically, Microsoft, has taken a big step to, curb the RAM apocalypse that is happening. And of course, there he is. Xbox is dead thanks to Paris Lily doing his dance, as he always does. Kay Asante, how you feeling, brother? Besides the kids going bonkers, how you feeling?
I'm not doing bad, man. I'm not doing bad. I'm happy to be here. It's another hump day, as it were. So let's reconvene and talk about what the news gobs have provided. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're going to get into it. I'm sure there's going to be a significant amount of major concern, of course, because there is that 30% number that has been out there and that has not been kind of debunked by anybody, to be honest with you, coming the way of Amy Hood. So of course, Xbox is on the chopping block. Well, they're not really, but you're going to see the stories, folks. And I mean, listen, they're down. I have some other numbers, industry numbers, that suggest this should not come off as a surprise, but we'll get there in a second. Harky Chani, what's up, brother? How you feeling? And the numbers are in, and Xbox is down. Again, this is not something that was unexpected. I think they were hoping that it would be from the 1 to 6%, and I know that it's 9%, which isn't great, right? They're down. You kind of wonder if the lack of console sales and, more importantly, the increase of Xbox Game Pass kind of set this thing in motion. But we'll get into it. How you feeling?
I'm good. Busy, but outside of that, good.
Well, look, I have the numbers in front of me, and of course, I want to thanks. Well, I mean, there are a lot of people that are reporting this, folks, but the one that I have in front of me is Idle Sloth. He has been someone that I have used in the past, and of course, he tweeted the numbers. So let's break down the numbers, and we'll start first with, of course, Kay Asante. So here are Xbox's FY26 Q2 highlights, if you can call it that. Xbox's total revenue declined by 9% year over year last quarter. Xbox content and services revenue decreased by 5%, and Xbox hardware declined once again at 32% year over year. Now, of course, the last number here, which is the declinement of the hardware, this is not a surprise. This is something they've been battling and dealing with. They really kind of slowed down production, so they're not selling as many consoles. They're also not making as many consoles. So this number is not a surprise. The Xbox's total revenue declined by 9% year over year last quarter, as opposed to, of course, last year, is a bit shocking. I don't know, and it's probably because of Call of Duty selling a lot less than last year's Black Ops 6. Now, Black Ops 7 came out. The best-selling game of the year was not Call of Duty for the first time in a very long time. That title goes to, ladies and gentlemen, Battlefield 6 was the best-selling game of 2025. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Call of Duty came in 5th, behind a lot. Now, again, this is something that is, I would consider, self-inflicted. It's something that Activision themselves said that they are no longer going to do. We saw a decline in sales from Modern Warfare 2, but Modern Warfare 3 sold even more, even though the game was not reviewed very well, and a lot of people did not like those Warzone type of missions. It still was the best selling of the game of that particular year. That wasn't the case this year for Black Ops 7. And unfortunately, some of the other games that even went third party didn't sell as well as they expected. Ninja Gaiden 4 really did not hit its mark. And The Outer Worlds 2, as spectacular of a game that it was also super light in sales. But look, I'm not here to try and make excuses for the near $4 trillion company, but before I bring in the two panel members and get some, and get the chat involved, I do have a bunch of stats that I just want to read here. Okay, now again, this is not an Xbox stat that I'm about to read. This is literally an industry, a games industry stat, or a bunch of stats that it should indicate why this is happening. I don't think anything I say is going to curtail Xbox is dead or dying. That you're going to start to see from everybody, or that's looking for engagement. To try and boost up their YouTube numbers at the end of the month. But let me just break it down here. So, according to the report I have in front of me, while the overall global games market was projected to reach a record-breaking $197 billion in 2025, which would have been a 7.5 growth year over year, the U.S. console hardware market experienced a significant downturn, with November 2025 sales reaching the lowest point since 1995 at 1.6 million units, which was a 27% year-on-year drop. This decline was driven by a 70% drop for Xbox, a 40% drop for PlayStation 5, and a 10% drop for Nintendo. Now, here are some key 2025 industry or gaming industry trends that I have in front of me, folks. And it says this: hardware slump. In the US, hardware spending in November of 2025 dropped 27% to 695 million, the lowest November since 2005. The console sales crisis 2025 was described as a, quote, terrible year for console sales, with high prices ranging from $600 to $800 for the Xbox Series X, leading to sharp declines. That's not all, folks. I have also in front of me another bunch of numbers. Now, according to this report, ladies and gentlemen, physical software was also in a huge decline. U.S. physical software spending fell 14% in November 2025 compared to November of 2024. They go on to say that global growth drivers, despite the U.S. hardware slump, the global market grew due to mobile, which came in at 108 billion was up 7.7%, and PC came in at 43 billion, and it was at the positive at 10.4% performance. Now it goes on to talk about the layoffs. While slightly lower than 2024, 2025 continued to experience high, quote, horrendous levels of industry layoffs, with over 9,000 recorded by the end of year. This is where it gets interesting, though. Gen Z spending drop. Data shows that Gen Z reduced game spending by nearly 25% in 2025 as compared to 2024. And in closing, the contrast to the console decline, the overall industry, and particularly in mobile and PC, managed to hit record revenue, showcasing a shift in where growth is occurring. So PC and mobile saw growth, but consoles saw a decline. So, Santa, let's bring in the numbers. Thanks to Idle Sloth, go as such. Xbox's FY26 Q2 and their highlights. Xbox total revenue was down by 9% year over year as opposed to last quarter. The Xbox content and service revenue decreased by 5%, and Xbox hardware once again declined to 32%, which is crazy.
Yep.
I don't necessarily think that this is just an Xbox problem, but it is a problem for Xbox. And
Sure,
we don't know what is going to happen. I know I saw a lot of people already starting to panic that they're going to close studios and lay thousands of people off. But, you know, again, this is an industry that has seen a significant amount of increase in pretty much everything. And when things increase, people buy less. Get your thoughts on what's on the new numbers.
No, I think you pretty much put the nail on the head right there. Like, you know, the thing that's always, and I'll leave the more financially minded among us to dig through the details and really give us the speeds and feeds and the facts of the matter. But I'm always reluctant to do these kind of comparisons, these year-on-year comparisons, especially when they do a platform on platform. Well, this time in this gen, they were doing this versus that. Like you were describing here in the preamble, there's so much that has changed on the ground between then and now, right? So much is happening. Like the best analogy that I have found that seems to crystallize this in my head for me, even though it's very true that all of it is down. That's no doubt. But what seems to crystallize it for me is when people first initially started moving their movies to streaming versus theatrical releases. And the notion was, oh my God, look at all these horrible numbers of theatrical releases, which was just the notion everywhere. Oh my God, it's just the worst. No one was talking about the Netflix and Disney Plus numbers that were ballooning because those features were also there, right? It's like the money is changing hands and being used for other purposes because technology is allowing for it. But because we're so stuck in the paradigm of looking how the stuff falls historically, we can't see that changing hands of it going elsewhere, right? The black hole games are still benefiting, right? Like you said, all these other things are gaining except for consoles, which are either plateauing or falling. That's not unexpected, because we now live in a world where technology has allowed for us to live in a world beyond the consoles. That's how it is. Right? Many of us don't like it, but that is the truth of the matter, right? If you're a certain age and you just want a game, I'm a parent. I'm always trying to give you the least common denominator, the lowest path forward that doesn't cost me much. It is now more valid for me to just buy you a controller and shut you up than buy you a whole console, right? And then whatever console platform, streaming platform I happen to find is where I find. And if that's the case, guess what? You'll fall into the numbers of high revenue over here, but it does not add to the console sales, which historically it used to, right? But historically it was, if he's playing and he's a benefit on our console, that means he also contributes to console sales. That is no longer a factor that's necessarily the case. So while everyone is still walking around like basically continuing to focus on analog numbers, the digital numbers are kind of superseding. You know, it's like for the graybeards in the house, does anyone remember how people used to be talking about terrestrial TV versus digital TV?
Yes.
Right? Oh my God, it's 80-20. It's not a thing. No one cares. Go look at terrestrial TV numbers today. They've gutted it like a pig. But it's not like TV has stopped existing. It's just everybody's watching YouTube and Netflix and stuff. Right? If you look at the numbers, it just changed hands.
Yes.
That's what's happening here. It's just we are so beholden to how the things used to be that even now that we see it changing hands, we think there's gloom and doom afoot, even though they're still making profits without selling consoles.
Yeah.
It is what it is, But don't get me wrong. I do think some of these bad numbers have a lot of contributing factors, right? Like what did we see last year? We saw them both grow really well as far as giving gamers what they want as far as games and stuff, but they also started squeezing people a little bit, right?
Yep.
The great deals started drying up a little bit. Back in the day, you used to be able to find Game Pass deal cards that are just so advantageous. You're just buying 4 or 5 cards. You can still find them, but you're buying 1 or 2 because the deals aren't that hot anymore. Right?
Yeah, and instead of getting them for like literally half the price, because you and I, we used to do this all the time. Like you'd be like, "Hey, boom! I just found it for $13. Whoa! I'm buying 10 of them, right?
Yes,
that's
those
not
don't
the case
exist anymore.
Yeah,
that's right. They're drying up here and there, and also you're charging people just a little bit more. And also the Call of Duty version that released was just not as good. There's lots of little teeny tiny factors that can kind of add up to why they didn't have this stellar year. But this to me tells me that they're just learning how to, calibrate the experiment. How much do we squeeze before it's too much?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How much value do we add? Like you're saying, all these games that some of them didn't hit. Maybe next time the budget for a game like a Ninja Gaiden might not be so big, so that the juice becomes worth the squeeze, right? Because what they're telling you there, if it didn't sell, that doesn't mean it didn't sell. It sold. It just didn't sell for it to be financially advantageous for them. That tells me they put too much in the budget and they didn't get enough out of it, right? So if that tells me that possibly instead of getting your next Ninja Gaiden that way, maybe they go for a Ragebound like instead.
Yeah.
And small game, bigger splash to see if that place is more advantageous before they buy the big. But this is how these things will fall, right? It's just experimentation to find where that sweet spot is. Like you, I don't think this is gloom and doom. I just think this is us watching them figure out where that sweet spot is.
Well, I mean, the one thing I think is pretty relevant in this conversation, Hargeet Chani, is the days of $300 million budgets, I think, are gone. I don't necessarily know, how you can curtail, so to speak, ballooning budgets, because the world is just expensive. Everything is. Whether that be insurance for the employees, whether that be the places where you build the games and how much rent is. There are all of these factors. And none of us should give a flying shit about that because we're consumers and we just want to play good games, right? That's ultimately what we should care about. For Microsoft more specifically, I don't necessarily think that this is the end of the world for them. I think that what you're seeing is a flagship title like Call of Duty being down in not only sales but potentially sales being the most important, because obviously Black Ops 6 is one of the best selling games not only in PlayStation in the last 20 plus years but on Xbox for sure. Like, it is one of the best selling Call of Duties in a very, very long time. And guess what wasn't? The half-cocked sequel. Sorry, I mean, I play Black Ops 7. I play it. I don't want to say I haven't been playing it every day in the last week or so, but I pretty much play every day. And even though I like it, it is still going to get its lunch eaten by the Fortnites, by the free-to-play games, because the free-to-play games are taking up and have been taking up the time of gamers. And that's where people are spending. You don't see that Fortnite is down. You don't see that Marvel Rivals just had a new recent update, and boom, just like that, everybody is playing. It's a free-to-play game, folks. So you can spend money if you want, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. I want to get your thoughts on this. I mean, because again, I know what's going to happen. In the next 24, 48 hours, or even, 2 or 3 days after that, there is going to be the Xbox is dead, the gloom and doom. Amy Hood looking to, chop and choppy. I don't necessarily think that's the case. They're down, yes, and that sucks for them. What does that ultimately mean for Xbox? Well, I don't think anything in the short term. I again, obviously, if they continue to decline, then there's going to be a problem. But this is why they have gone third party. This is why the envelope has been pushed for 2026, and you're going to see multiple games released not only on Xbox and on PC, but on PlayStation 5, where the most gamers are playing. And I would imagine that these numbers, when Forza Horizon 6 comes out, won't be the same. And when Modern Warfare 4 comes out, these numbers won't be the same. And when Fable comes out and is a global phenomenon and everyone is playing that game, it is not, these numbers won't be the same. What are your thoughts on this, man?
I mean, look, it's an interesting environment. I don't know that. Look, nobody expected the massive decline in console sales, but maybe we should have seen the signal. If you keep increasing the price, eventually people stop buying, right? And it wasn't a supply constraint on PlayStation side. It certainly wasn't a supply constraint on Nintendo's side,
right?
Who just released a brand new console that didn't sell as well as they expected. So something's up, right? Something has changed. And people might say stupid things like it's our president, dude, that's one country. There's 200 others. So if those countries are also not buying, what's the problem there? It's the whole thing. The gaming has changed. And some of the things that you brought up, Kay, you just buy a controller, connect to your TV, like all the big manufacturers are doing this now. It's like, okay, maybe there's just a convenience factor and people are just going with it. Okay, maybe that has changed. How does that help Microsoft or hurt Microsoft? Well, look, they decided to go into this cloud gaming thing and they started to partially ask you to pay for it. They bumped the price up of Game Pass to pay for cloud. And maybe that's helping, maybe that's hurting, or maybe that was the reason they had to do it because they saw this number coming. And they're like, oh, now what do we do? And this is how they kind of, try to mitigate that. Look, the content and services is down. If Battlefield was so good, it would be making them money too. But it isn't. Now, it kind of sucks that Battlefield won out and the guy that did it stupidly killed himself and doesn't even get to see that beautiful thing happen, right? That, hey, you just took over Call of Duty. But that stupid thing happened, unfortunately. Rest in peace. But hey, that's kind of a cool thing from an industry perspective, right? That, hey, you finally kind of toppled the king and the king now has to respond. Hopefully they will. Hopefully it'll be better next year. But these are the kind of things you need to have, right? Sometimes you need to have somebody humble you. That's good. Maybe that'll make the game better. I was very disappointed when Call of Duty came and I tried that first, the single player thing, and you're like, what?
It's terrible.
I can't even checkpoint. I can't even checkpoint. I put in like 2 hours and I didn't finish your mission and I have to start again. Are you kidding me?
No.
Like what? No, no. Like, like that. It was very irritating to me that they did that. And look, you pay for that. If you do stupid things, you get what you get, right? And so I'm sure there was plenty of word of mouth of that. I was annoyed. We certainly all said it. Like, what is this? So, that's got to be part of it. But the other part of it is there are enough games in Arc Raiders. Like, let's not just forget about that game. Came out and totally owned freaking gaming for a while for the the competitive shooting arena. It's crazy that thing is still going, but it is, right? And so there you go. Like this, it can happen, right? So we will see what happens. The world we're in is very different, where you have a lot of free-to-play games. A lot of those take up the time people want to take on gaming, which for them is socializing, especially when we're talking about younger kids. They don't see it the same way we do, right? So the single player, campaign driven, story driven stuff, I don't know where it is. We're seeing declines everywhere. Like, did anybody expect Nintendo to have a decline?
No, actually, I expected them to have record numbers, and they didn't. Right? It's a great point.
And so something is obviously up, right? It's not just a simple thing. So overall, we have to think about where the world is and what's going on and how things are going for the gaming world. But this is not just limited to them. Unfortunately, I'm expecting the same for the other platforms when they come out and say we didn't hit our targets. We're kind of down, expecting having this level, but we didn't get that level. And I'm talking both Nintendo and Sony. I don't know if that's a good thing for the industry or a bad thing. Is it shifting? We see PC is kind of getting up, and then it got hammered. Why? Stupid AI price crisis.
Yep.
Where freaking hardware is now ridiculously expensive. I'm starting to see some of those computers are now, like, even the pre-builts. You want the higher end cards, they're starting to charge 5, 6, 7,000. Like, oh my goodness, it's getting ridiculous. So it's only going to get worse. Do we even have a price for the Steam machine? I don't even know if they've released that. Because
the rumor is upwards of over $1,000 for the 2 terabyte, and I think it was like close. I could find it. I don't want to sit here and just shoot from the hip. I know that the higher price one was almost $1,100. Again, it's
but that's not even official, right? And no, the reason it's not official is because they're terrified of telling you because the costs have escalated so much. This is just it's a crazy time, right? Can you imagine that Steam Machine isn't even as powerful as a PS5? It's going to come out and it's going to be more expensive than a PS5. Like that's how crazy things are right now, right? So it is what it is. Like the world is kind of changing, it's shifting. We might be getting to a saturation point, and people might be shifting their gaming focus to maybe shorter experiences on a mobile device. Maybe that is happening, and if it is what it is, right? I still enjoy my single player campaign experiences, but I'm sure there are a lot more people who just want to socialize and play in Fortnite, Roblox, games like that.
Yep.
It's unfortunate, but that's kind of where things are. And as we shift out, as the people that did this during the 70s and 80s and 90s, as we start aging out, and unfortunately that is happening, maybe the market has shifted and it will continue to shift. And somehow the game developers have to kind of,
figure it out,
struggle with that. But I think look at Ubisoft. Ubisoft had to cancel like almost everything and like revamp and say, well, no, we got to like shift our focus to doing certain things. And
I mean, they closed studios, they laid off people. Right?
Yeah, it's not EA just got bought. EA just got bought because of this whole shift. They're all trying to figure it out. They're all trying, and they just had this massive success with Battlefield, right? They're all trying to figure it out. It's not as simple as, this platform is bad, that platform good. It's not. It's all over the place. It's going to be an interesting year. What do they do? How do they make up for this? The sad part is this is a year you'd hope Microsoft would want to celebrate. It's the 25th anniversary. It's the 20th anniversary of Gears. It's the 25th of Halo. On and on, right? So many anniversaries of all their major publishers, and are they going to be able to? So I don't know, and this is kind of a sad thing, right? So yes, there's potential for new hardware generations, all that stuff. Great. I don't know how much more that sustains, and like so the idea of console sales is in an interesting like area right now. I did not think that there would be that much of a decline going into this year, that it would decline. Was it 40%, something ridiculous? That it was like one of the worst years in console sales for like decades.
It's the last time it was this bad was 1995.
That's terrible. That's 30 years. Okay, so obviously something's wrong. And so now the question is, what is wrong? And they're saying that next quarter they also expect a mid single digits decline in revenue. It is, I guess this is where they are. Even with the releases, they say it just doesn't matter. It's gonna be down, and
people are spending less because people don't have the money. I don't think understand that.
Yeah, there's a saturation point of how much debt people can keep taking.
Yes.
And it's been years of this built up, and at some point it's gonna come crashing down, and that's kind of where we are. Yep. Now, hopefully things kind of fix themselves and it gets back. But again, I don't know. There are times when you have shifts created by like macroeconomics, and those shifts may stay. They may never go back. I have not gone to the movies nearly as I've gone like to one movie since I like had since the pandemic, and I don't care to go back. I
I'd rather
don't
watch from
care
home,
to
to
go
be
back.
honest with you. But the only
Because
thing,
it became easy for me. I have large TVs at home, just like that. That's the way we are now, right? We have large TV at home. I can wait for it to come home, and I can watch if I want to, but I can watch at my convenience. I have the surround system. I have everything at home. Do I need to go to the movies? And they have not recovered to the level that they want to. It is what it is. Things shifted. People got used to certain things, right? And so some things change, and this may never recover. I don't know. Like, it may recover. It may never recover. We may be looking at there's a new ceiling for consoles. It's an interesting thing. I don't know. Like, and you were saying like Kesante, that the prices for the Game Pass, I still found them on GG deals, right? Like 10 and a half bucks, $11. I don't know how many people took advantage of it. I don't know if that grew at all. I don't know. I don't know where it is. Maybe some of the Call of Duty numbers are based on Game Pass. That's also a possibility. However, I still think it's just people didn't have the interest, right? Word of mouth. It's like, yeah, this isn't that much better. And like, the multiplayer, well, it's okay. And like the single player, don't even bother. So like, who wants to go spend $70? It's just, that's what it is. So, we're in a different world now. So I think that's what hit Xbox. Obviously, that's their big juggernaut that hit them. But other things hit them. The hardware sales keep going down like 30%, 30%. It's pretty crazy. But hey, whatever. I we'll see what happens with them. But I'm interested in seeing what happens with Sony and Nintendo as well, and the whole industry. Right now, if PC is gonna get hit too, it's gonna be a very hard time to like see gaming increase when all of it is going in crazy directions. Yikes. Yeah, I mean, everybody's gonna say Xbox dead, but I'd warn all those people of taking victory laps. I don't expect great numbers for the others either. I think there's going to be problems for all of them, and it's sad, but I mean, I fully expected Nintendo to smash it. You got a new console, brand new console, and they didn't, and that's not good.
And you know what's even crazier? What you have not heard from Nintendo are the numbers for the games, because that's usually where they get like the one-to-ones. Like, look, you've heard you Chad, if you've been following me here at Double Barrel Gaming for a while, I consistently praise Nintendo because of the big three, and you can say the big four if you want to add PC into the conversation. Their console sale to software sale is the highest in gaming. It's not 100% like it was when the Zelda launched on the Switch 1 in 2017, but they're upwards in the high 60 percentile, sometimes even in the 70. So you're getting a game that comes out, and 70% of the populace is buying that game. Something like Metroid, I don't think sold very well. Even Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is an amazing game, I don't think sold as well. And just to kind of answer Hargeet's question regarding the rumored price for the Steam machine, because I didn't remember, they have it here at the 512 model coming in at $950. And the 2 terabyte coming in potentially at over $1,100. Look, there's a reason why we have not heard anything from Valve and this Steam machine, because I think Hargeet knocked it out of the park when he said that they are terrified to come out and say our new box is going to be $1,300 after tax, which is, I mean, I don't know what else to say other than that. Well, I'm not buying it, that's for sure.
Is that with or without the controller? Because I know they were going to have bundles with and without the controller.
That would be without the controller, which is even more insane.
You have to add another like $50 or $100.
Jeez,
man.
Yeah, I look, again, folks, we're not making excuses. I want this to be clear for the near $4 trillion company. They have to figure it out. I don't care how much money they make, to be quite honest with you, because I buy a lot of games. I buy their controllers. I invested in Game Pass, which now I'm paid up until January 5th of 29. I just re-upped it another 3 months. I have a year sitting in my drawer that I picked up over the holidays. And if I find it on sale again, I'll pick up another year and just sit on it. But the truth is, the industry as a whole has really taken quite a bit of steps back. Now, for Xbox, they're in third place. Obviously, their console sales, we knew they were going to be down. I think what a lot of people are going to focus on are what is the reason for the revenue decline, which is 9%. Now, they were predicting, and again, you got to read this for yourself, folks. I'll add it to the show notes if you want to read everything for yourself. You can.
Yeah.
But the prediction for themselves was between 1 and 6% decline. It's now 9%. It's 3% more. Ultimately, we have to see. I don't necessarily think there's going to be a knee-jerk reaction. I don't think there's going to be mass layoffs tomorrow. In the short term, I don't see anything happening. I can't say that for the long term. We have to see what happens. In regards to content and services, this is something that they're normally up in, whether it be 1 to 3%, sometimes as much as 8%. Well, they're down. It decreased by 5%. Why? What is the content and services? Why are they down 5%? Is it because of the backlash of Xbox Game Pass increasing by $10? I don't know. I don't know. Where you put a pin in this thing. But needless to say, they're down.
Just to add a little bit of context for the whole thing, just yes, the Xbox part is that Microsoft itself recorded $81.3 billion in revenue, up 17%.
Okay,
and $30.9 billion in pure profit.
Wow,
and that's in a 3-month period. That's how much money they made.
Well, there you go. I mean, like I said, I don't worry about Microsoft. Again, they're not going to close the doors, folks. They have a futuristic plan that is going to be third-party based. They're going to have their games here, there, and everywhere. They're going to be making money on Xbox, on PlayStation, on Steam, on PC, and at some point, Nintendo. They're going to be making money everywhere. I wouldn't lose sleep over this, and you shouldn't either, folks. Again, these are the numbers. It came in. Again, I would be remiss as a host not to talk about this. I think it's very important to have this conversation because, again, I love Xbox, but I do support all the consoles, and I do buy games everywhere. But we catch up on a couple of super chats and channel member chats here, and then we will get into the big topic of the show. And we have a story here from Jez Corden of Windows Central. And I don't know whether you guys and gals saw the reports. Apparently, Jez Corden is the only one left from Windows Gaming. They laid off everybody else, and I am stunned for all of those journalists because, quite frankly, Windows Central had an array of really amazing writers that I consistently use their work, and to hear that they're all without a job is terrifying, for an early 2026 reveal. But Music 72 in the chat, who's been a channel member himself for 16 months. So Music, thank you so much for the generosity, brother. We do appreciate it here. He says Fusion, while it may explain hybrid Xbox PC consoles, is a terrible name for a console. I actually don't think so. And, we got to shout out Infinite Number, who's the one that coined that. I like the Xbox Fusion. I do. I mean, again, that's just me. I think it kind of just rolls off of the tongue. And it explains, it's a fusion of, PC and Xbox. I don't know. I like the name, ladies and gentlemen. I should probably do a poll and get the people involved. We also have It's Me, the Broke Boy, with the very generous $2 super chat. So, Will, thank you so much for the support, brother. He says, I just got my first platinum trophy, Terminator 2D No Fake. Good for you, dude. I am playing through that. And I gotta tell you, wow, man, they did such a great job. It is just we were so blessed last year for these old school 2D type of games. We got an abundance of them, some really, really good ones, and certainly that was one of them. But gentlemen and chat, so I have a report here and a tweet from Jez Corden of Windows Central. He says Microsoft has reportedly scored a big memory supply deal with SK Hynix or Hynix, which ICYMI is the world's biggest DRAM and NAND and AI memory makers in the world. This is a report that comes the way of course, Windows Central. Now, look, I know some people are going to look at the title and say, well, how does this have to do with anything with the PlayStation 6 being delayed potentially until 2030? Well, we'll get there, folks. You got to walk with us on this one. This is a pretty big topic, and we're gonna have multiple layers here. So, of course, there was a report, and again, this is just a rumor that Sony has backed off on plans to release their new PlayStation 6 potentially in 2028 to move it all the way back to, again, rumors, folks, to 2030. We'll get into that report as well, but I do want to open up with this chipset. And I'm sorry that Everborn Saga isn't here because we had such a great conversation. And the conversation that him and I had regarding the concerns for Xbox and the Rampocalypse, as it's been coined by Jamie Moran. Is the RAM going to be a problem for Microsoft's next console? Well, based on this report, the answer is no, ladies and gentlemen, because they are buying up a lot of it. As a matter of fact, this damn near exclusive deal that they have is really going to set them way ahead of PlayStation and Nintendo, for that matter. So let me read a little bit from Jez Corden's article. It says this, ladies and gentlemen: Microsoft's platform may avoid DRAM supply issues if this new report is accurate. Microsoft's AI ambitions may have just taken another major step forward. A new report claims the company has secured a massive high bandwidth memory deal with SK Hynix, big enough to send the chip makers stock soaring nearly 9% in a single day, with AI hardware demand exploding and every major player scrambling for supply. This kind of agreement might give Microsoft, quote, a serious edge in the race to build out next-gen cloud and AI infrastructure. Now, here's why it matters, according to Jez Corden. In case you've been living under a large slab of silicon, you might have heard that memory prices have exploded in recent months. And it's all because of the artificial intelligence and its demand. This demand for compute AI first companies is so impossibly vast that memory makers cannot keep up with its demand. It's gotten so bad that Samsung has even refused to sell memory to divisions within its own company, with analysts estimating that anywhere upwards of 70% of new silicon could go straight to data centers this calendar year. So, according to the report from Bloomberg, SK Hynix has entered into a, quote, big contract with Microsoft to become the sole supplier of advanced memory for the firm's new AI products. The news sent SK Hynix stock price upwards over 8% on the Korean stock exchange, wiping out some earlier losses on the fresh U.S. tariff fears. So, Kay Asante, you and I were talking about this, and there might be people right now in the chat that are trying to figure out how this story specifically equates with what Xbox is doing and how this news may be a really big deal for Xbox and why Sony themselves may have had to postpone or somewhat delay the PlayStation 6. And again, if you look at where we are in the calendar year, we're in January of 2026. If this comes to fruition and Sony does hold out and wait on their next console, we gamers, we're all gamers here, folks, may not see the PlayStation 6 until holiday of 2030. Let's get your thoughts on this and let's try and make some sense of it.
So honestly, I'm not sure. So there's a lot there. I'll be honest with you. There's a lot there, and in my head, I have not been able to correlate them as evenly and as cleanly. So for me, if there's a reason specifically right now that PlayStation has been able to delay, and I know this might sound a little slanderous, it's because it looks like at least in part, it's because Microsoft got out of their way. They're no longer boot on neck, tit for tat. They are and not or, right? It's like we're here and we're there. We like them and we like us. For a long time, they were very much in a it's either them or it's us mode, so they focus a lot of their energy that way. It doesn't look like that is the case anymore, at least on Xbox's side. Even though they have a platform and they're selling it, right? We can all see that it looks like they've changed their strategy, and with that, it seems to have removed some pressure off of PlayStation to potentially provide an offering that maybe would have kept them relevant or whatever, because the other guys are there, right? Even when Xbox puts something out now, it is such a different thing that PlayStation is kind of in a league of their own right now. They're, it's basically kind of like what Nintendo did to move away from the game with the GameCube after the GameCube era. They kind of took their ball and went a different lane, and they enjoyed that lane to themselves for a time because nobody else was really in that lane. Only this time, at least from the idea of their delay, that to me, that as I see it, makes far more. I wouldn't say that it's because they don't have the pressure, that's why they're not doing it. But whatever the reason why they feel that the delay is necessary, obviously DRAM prices being what it is, economic prices being the like, looking at your consumers and recognizing that they may not be able to afford all that, all of those factors are in the equation. But I do think that if they had sharp competition, they would still be out there just squeezing as much as they can from that stone to try and be there. But because Microsoft is not there in that way exactly, now they have the room to breathe to make different decisions. Now, when I say all that, I'm not saying that's a bad thing or Microsoft is at fault for doing this or that. Like this is a reoccurring theme here. The logistics on the ground has changed. No one can move the way they used to move.
Correct.
No one can. Microsoft can't. Sony can. Right? The mistake we make, that I talk about this in our Discord all the damn time. The mistake we make is assuming that the Bulls will always have Michael Jordan on it. No. Assuming that they'll be the perfect team forever. Yeah, they'll be called the Bulls forever, but they ain't winning every day forever and ever and ever and ever. No. And if you pay attention, you'll recognize that team you thought was impervious, they got a lot of chinks in the armor these days, right? And PlayStation or Xbox rather, who quote unquote had no games, are swimming in the stuff at this point.
Yeah.
Stuff changes over time. That is what's happening right now. Stuff is changing over time. Perceptions are changing over time. Leadership is changing over time. And it's leading to different outcomes. That's just where we are with it, right? So it is an interesting reference point to make, but I genuinely don't think that it will end up falling exactly the same, Xbox versus PlayStation that it always has, right? I don't think the equation is the same, at least for them. We may look at it the same, but it's not the same for them, from what I can tell. And also, with regards to the chip deal that has been made and all of that, we live in a world where it looks like all those data centers have the potential of squashing all of the human resources. They really do. And RAM obviously is the highest, most sought after resource. It is now technical gold if you have a good set of RAM sticks. We could get into the speeds and feeds of why that is in the AI side of the house, but I don't want to burn your brain, so don't worry about it. It's just they need a lot of RAM, right? The thing that I think is pretty shrewd and interesting here when it comes to that is that it looks like Microsoft recognizing that this was going to happen, and obviously we have all these other RAM manufacturers in the space already at a mature level with their processes. They've kind of scoped out the new entrants in the market or new player in the game and kind of got a sweetheart deal before it got too hot, right? So that is very interesting. That'll keep them flush for some time. Now, do we care about that? Not really. Why do we care about that? But why that might matter to us is if they and there is absolutely no correlation with gaming or anything like that. But if you're in the business of putting RAM in a device, and RAM is hard to find everywhere else, to the point where it's causing you debilitating price jumps, I would expect that if you have this sweetheart deal, you now have a relationship with these guys. So is there a world where these kind of deals facilitate more, having more gaming impact? It's not saying that on the page right now, but I would be very surprised if that does, because they are becoming now the place of RAM. Now, let's be clear here. RAM isn't just RAM. What these guys do specializes in AI optimization. So this is not just RAM you buy off the shelf. They've very, very much done interesting things to make themselves indispensable in this space, right? But again, it is still RAM. And if there is a situation where Microsoft finds themselves in need, or say they're in a partnership with Asus or something, and you need a vendor, you have this relationship. This is how those things mature. So it's an interesting place we find ourselves. It's not really gaming focused now, but I can see it turn into something interesting down the line.
It's funny. Someone in the chat made mention of Sony selling their TV division. Now, think about this for a second, folks. Yeah, they sold a controlling side of the house to TCL. TCL holds 51%. Sony holds 49%. Folks, there's a reason for it. They are a $1 billion company. Make no mistake. I know there's gonna be some about, but Sony's poor. Sony's not poor. They're just not making much money, and their TV division was getting just killed. And why was it getting killed? It was getting killed by multiple reasons. There are other TVs out there that are doing way better, that are coming in cheaper. TCL is a cheaper TV that offers some high end stuff for a much lower entry price. And they sold the business, folks. They sold the business. There's a reason for it. But Hargeet, I do want to bring you in, but I do have some additional information. And again, we're going to get into more specifics why Sony is waiting, or why Sony potentially is rumored to wait for their next console. Well, I mean, look. Microsoft was down 70% and year over year with their console sales, but PlayStation was down 40%, folks. Now, the least of the three was Nintendo, down 10%, but that's still bonkers considering that they released a brand new console, which you heard Hargeet say he expected to sell gangbusters, and they came in under their own projections. Folks, there's reasons for it, most of which is people don't have the spendable money. But I have a story here from William D'Angelo. This was posted 2 days ago from VGCharts.com. And it says, analyst says Sony likely to delay PlayStation 6 release date. And this is breaking news. Well, it was breaking news at the time. MST Financial senior analyst David Gibson, in a report on the Sandstone Insights for Japan on the website, claimed that Sony is likely to extend the PlayStation 5 life cycle and delay the release of the PlayStation 6 to later than most forecasts have suggested. Now, the original forecasts were 2028, a year after when Xbox was supposed to release their own new hardware in 27. And now that number seems to be, Hargeet, 2030. But let me just read a little bit more of the article from William D'Angelo. It says, PlayStation lifecycle extension. Sony sees the PS5's life cycle extended, said Gibson via a Google translation. The release of the PlayStation 6 is expected to be later than many in the industry have expected. The PS5 launched in November of 2020, and a typical lifespan of 7 years before the next generation launches would see an expected release window of November of 2027. With the increased cost of RAM and other PC parts due to the AI data centers being built, this could be a reason for Sony to delay the release of their PlayStation 6 to 2028, or now the rumored 2030. So, Hargeet, let's get into this, because again, we have two reports, one of which comes the way of Jez Corden and his article regarding Xbox striking this major deal. And if they do strike this major deal, I mean, I'm not saying or suggesting that this is going to somehow lower prices on the next Xbox, whatever that is, the Fusion or whatever you want to call it, whether or not their own box comes out in 27 or even later now with everything that's going on. But I think that when you consider the size of Microsoft, and this is what something Kay and I were talking about, they are a company that is in position financially to buy lots of RAM at at big chunks of money being spent. And Sony and Nintendo, even though of course they are billion-dollar companies, cannot move like that. So Xbox, well, specifically Microsoft, puts themselves in a bit of a better situation. Is it perfect? No, it's certainly not. I want to get your thoughts on both of these reports, Hargeet.
Yeah, I mean, look, the reason they're going after the memory is for AI, not for gaming.
Yes.
And that, and their cloud environment, cloud was one of the biggest growth drivers for them.
Yes.
It's the reason they have this massive increase in revenue. So for them, it's a business decision that they need to make. They are continuing to drive data center growth with their cloud environments, and so they are going to keep pushing. And as a business, they need to find the best deals they can, and this is the stuff that they do, right? So fully expect this. It's kind of an obvious thing, especially when you have these constraints in the industry. And Microsoft has the money; they can do that, and they have the demand, and they have the cash to be able to hit that demand, so they can do it. So, good on them. That's fine. I don't know if this helps or hurts. It probably hurts, probably because it's going to take a good chunk of SK Hynix's supply and assign it to just one company, right? So that's not the greatest thing from a market competition perspective, but this is how it works, right? Big company comes in, says, I can buy a whole bunch. I buy a whole bunch because I need to create these data centers that everybody's using. Fair enough. It is what it is. So I wouldn't be surprised if others are doing similar things. But this is what we're seeing. NVIDIA is coming and taking all sorts of stuff everywhere, right? It's kind of the world we're in. But, fine, that happens. I don't know if that helps the gaming world at all, unless you're talking about AI use in the gaming arena. As far as the PS6 being delayed, look, you're seeing that rumors of a Steam machine being in that range of price that's so ridiculous. Like, did people expect that to come in that way? I mean, like, how?
No, people were thinking $500-$600 is what people were thinking.
Yeah, which
like,
I mean, I was saying that's
pricing.
Ridiculous. If it was $600, you should buy it. It's a steal. $600 is a steal. But like, I just expect it was going to be expensive, but it's getting even more expensive because all the component prices are going up. Look, I kind of understand where they are. Like, everybody seems to think somehow like PlayStation was going to have this magical way to bypass all these costs. They don't have a magical way to bypass these costs. They have to deal with the same cost structure that everybody else has to. And if PS6 comes out and it's like, oh, it's $1,200, how many people are going to buy it? That's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. But that's where we are. And so they have to kind of think about, what is it going to be? How are they going to make this thing? How are they going to sell this thing? What cost is okay with customers? They saw that even $700 for that PlayStation 5 Pro didn't work out as well as they were hoping. So they're thinking $700 is too much. Okay, well, how much can we really make this thing for then? Like $600? Is that going to be acceptable? Maybe. Okay, cool. Then when is it going to be $600? Because what they're looking to make, it's probably going to cost more. So it's just the way it is. The calculus is there. On top of that, like, the PS5 hasn't been fully utilized. They have the PS5 Pro. They're working on PSR 2. They could keep like pushing, right? They have that capability to keep pushing the current gen. And we haven't really even gotten off of PS4 yet. So like, this thing's going to keep around for so long. They're like, well, let's extend it as much as we can then and get as much out of it as we can. I can totally see that, right? I don't see why they need to, push themselves to move earlier. It's always a pain because you have to reacquire all those customers. And you still have to then eventually get off of the old one, and they haven't even gotten off of the 4 yet. And so it's a hard sell to say that 5 is going to be, going away in the next few years. That's unlikely. These things are going to run for a long time when you have new, portable hardware coming out that's less powerful than the PS5. You have the Steam machine coming out, brand new console, less powerful than the PS5. It's like, well, come on, this thing can keep running for a while then, right? So it is what it is, right? So I can see it. It just doesn't need to be done right now. If the market stabilizes, like the RAM prices come back down, the NVMEs come back down, GPUs become realistic, we can see that. But that's gonna be, unfortunately, like all estimates seem to say, it's gonna be years. It's just not gonna happen that fast. So like the stabilization for those things is gonna be a while. And if it's gonna be a while, I can see them say, I don't want to build up stock of something in 2026 and 7 with these inflated prices. I'm going to wait until they come down in 27, 28 and then start making my inventory. So you're looking at 29 or 30 for a release. I can see that. I can just see that. That makes sense to me, right? So fair enough. And again, what's driving them to push, right? Now, sadly, along with that comes a massive drop off in hardware sales with the PS5 console. Maybe that wasn't something they were expecting, but they're like, what the hell can we do about it? Right? So we're not going to sell a $1,200 console when the $600 or $550 one isn't selling. So what are you going to do about it? You can't sell it for $550 for the PS6. So what are you going to do? So they're stuck. It is what it is. And so I can see it. As far as Xbox coming out earlier, they're in the same constraint. So it's going to be expensive if you want to buy it now. So we'll see what that means, right? If they're going to release something with like Asus or MSI or somebody else, okay, at least they can say it's their price, not ours. So hopefully that works, but it's going to be expensive, right? Like everybody was expecting cheaper Asus ROGs, and what did it come out as? Well, you got the prices. So hey, this is where we are. I'm not surprised by Sony saying PlayStation 6 should be pushed out. Maybe it comes out in 29. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's like, hey, this stabilizes a little later. We can then build the inventory. But yeah, this does not surprise me. Look, it's just business. It's just straight business. There's an economics of when do you put the price too high for people to buy. And I've been saying that even for game costs, $70 seems to be causing problems. Maybe that needs to change, industry. Maybe you need to think about that and cut it back so people are more willing to buy your games. But hey, that's something they need to learn. But yeah, I think that's really it. They're just looking at the cost and like, yeah, it's just not possible. We have to wait. So yeah, is that a good thing or a bad thing for Xbox? I don't know. They're not selling hardware either. So it's not like that's going to be the thing that's going to drive their hardware. And PC is, I'm just dreading those prices going even higher than they are now. but they're going high. It's just the way it is. So we're in a weird state right now.
No, I mean, it's funny. You made mention of game prices. And I think the industry was curb checked last year. Some of the best-selling games were under $50, right? Some of the most highest reviewed games were under $50. Now I'm not saying that every $70 game was fell under the mark or was crap. No, there was plenty of great $70 games, but I do think that your point must be noted that these companies are going to have to figure out that one, $315 million budgets or higher are just not sustainable. They're just not sustainable anymore. That's I think really
Unless you're
jumps off the page.
Rockstar making GTA, right? Then okay,
Well,
fine.
I mean, the rumor for GTA is its cost is over $2 billion for that game. The game has been in development for what we all believe to be over a decade at this point. We don't know if it's going to release this year. Again, it has a locked in date of November 19th, but with everything going on with Rockstar, we don't know, right? So, I mean, there was a report that we talked about at the beginning of the week that things are so dire that they're going to release it on digital only at first. So it's not going to have a physical copy potentially until the following year. Like again, it's all rumored, folks, but that's the rumor. Now, that's not substantiated, so take it with a grain of salt, but think about that for a second. That's weird. They're not going to have a physical copy of either.
I thought they said they didn't want to do that because sometimes those
they said something about leaks, which I think
they
is
don't
just
want to have that
ridiculous.
come out.
I don't believe that for a second.
Okay.
That's
Whatever.
very odd. But
now imagine if that game does not hit. Holy crap! What would happen if that did not hit?
You know what? It's almost. Let me just say this, and I know this is not like eat your words, or clip me on this. I'll say this. This is just my thoughts. You've heard the term "too big to fail." I believe GTA 6 is exactly that definition. Too big to fail. It's Grand Theft Auto, for crying out loud. But again, to Hargeet's point, what if
crazier things have happened? You just never know, right?
Yeah, so again, this is just for some additional context before I have one additional topic I want to get into. It's a fun one because I didn't get a chance to talk with either Kay or Hargeet and get their thoughts on the Xbox Direct that happened last week. We didn't get a chance to cover it. Just for some again, just some numbers here. Cloud gaming specifically, it went with for Microsoft. It was based on some reports were I think they clocked it in at 40% higher, which is bonkers. So people are playing on cloud. I think again, it's not everybody, and I don't know if the normies are going to be picking up controllers and playing on their TV, folks. I have no idea. I think what you are starting to see, and anybody with a family, anybody that has to pay their mortgage and their kids' school bills and food on the table. I know this is like the boring part of the conversation that nobody wants to have, but these are the realities, folks. When you have kids, you want to give them everything. And even though Tyler wasn't birthed by Mrs. Boom, we treat him like our own son. He doesn't really ask for much, but we try to give him everything. And anyone that has kids will understand that. We are in a world right now where the average salary cannot afford to do it all. And what we know is that entertainment is the first thing on the chopping block. And we're even starting to see people like, remember a couple of years ago, the big term was cut the cord, no more cable. I'm just going to stream everything. And I guarantee you that if you look at how many streaming services, I know that we're paying for at least 15. And might be more than that. We watch we love film. Mrs. Boom and I are, film buffs. We like shows, we like, TV. We like watching, especially like Korean dramas and stuff. So in order to watch that, you got to pay for it. That's entertainment. Those things go first. But gaming has been considered. I tell you right now, gaming, if you ask anybody, it has become a premium piece of entertainment. And again, at $70, look, folks, I don't think it stops there. I know that we're talking about $100 games, but I know there was a report that $80 games are around the corner. Look, you've heard me say this before. I don't know if we're ever going to see, at least I hope not, that we're going to see like a gaming crash like we saw like in 82, 83, where just gaming imploded on itself. I don't know if it will ever get that bad, but they have to figure out a way to lower these budgets and start lowering the price of admission, because people are going to regress from purchasing. And that's why something like Xbox Game Pass, something I continue to talk about, is such a value, because you are getting day-and-day games, you are getting big games in there, and you are paying for a service that, yes, it went up and that sucks, but again, this is an industry problem. Yes, it doesn't. This is not good news for Xbox, folks. Let's call a spade, but it's not only Xbox. So you're going to see people that are going to try and defend the bad numbers. There's no defending them. The numbers are bad. But you're also going to see a subset of people that are going to try and sell you on the belief that this is the only platform that's having this trouble, and it's not. PC was up, yes. Mobile was up because mobile is easy to get into because everybody has a phone. But we'll see the other two. We'll see what happened with Nintendo. We'll see what happens with Sony soon enough. And I just think everyone is down. Now, who's going to be down the most? It's probably Xbox for sure, especially when you look at the console sales. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But right now, the first report of numbers comes the way of Xbox, and folks, quite frankly, it's not good. I don't know if these numbers are going to equate to a potential delay on their own console. I do still believe that an OEM partner device is coming. I think that's releasing this year. And again, I know that the Xbox ROG Ally X was $1,000, but that sold, man. People went out and bought it. People bought the cheaper one as well, and used throughout the holidays. It was actually $100 off for the white model. So we'll see what happens. But Hargeet and Keosante, I want to get you guys' thoughts on the. This is a small topic. We're not going to be here long, but Keosante, what were your thoughts on the Direct? Because quite frankly, it took the world by storm for a lot of reasons. Not only because there were incredible games shown. Two of the games shown are releasing on PlayStation 5. One is Day and Date and Fable, and one is going to be a little bit of a later release for Forza Horizon 6, potentially the holiday of this year. What'd you think of the Direct, man? Because I thought it was fan-freaking-tastic.
I did so as well. I thought they showed out really well. I thought obviously Fable was what we were looking for, and it didn't disappoint. To me, it was the reason you were there, and it's the reason I was there, and I was very much excited. I was very, very, very much excited to see what I saw, because I'm a huge Fable fan. I've played all the Fables, as many have. I played some of the Fables that you haven't. I was part of the original team that was the part of the insider program for Fable Legends, if you remember, the asymmetrical Fable that had the 3 people on a journey and one bad boss, and you'd fight them. They were literally testing them all the way to the day they canceled it. And I was playing that thing when they canceled it. And the graphics then were beautiful. And I was very upset because I needed Fable to be realized in a modern sense. And at that time, it looked like that vision had been lost. This looks like it's finally brought it back. I love what they've done there as far as modernizing. They say they took, which by the way, you should go watch. You should go read the article from Craig Duncan. It really supplements the information that you got in the Dev Direct. So it looks like they took the original information from the Lionhead Studios and then doubled down and modernized them. So every single piece of information and every piece of vision that they took for the new Fable was originated in the Lionhead original design. They just took it to a more modern conclusion. It brought up some interesting, I'd say, debate, because some people are now, well, it's so sad that that there is no physical manifestation of good and evil, right? Whereas I think this is the logical manifestation of good and evil, because in that early sense, what they were doing just had to happen because they just didn't have the technical bandwidth and the actual resource bandwidth to make everyone in the town hate or love you in a sense of an actual human way. So instead, they had to make you look with devil horns or have wings on to kind of manifest in that way. Now they can actually have thousands of people know that you are an asshole, for lack of a better term, across the map, right? You know, they can see the rich asshole coming from a mile away. Oh, there he is, right? They can do that now, and you don't have to have devil horns for that to manifest. I've heard some people be disappointed, and I can understand that, because obviously this is your childhood favorite game we're talking about. So any changes become very sensitive. But I really do like what they've done here. It seems like the logical conclusion they've put to some of these things is exactly where they should have gone, right? And from a technological perspective, the amount of NPCs that'll be there and the amount of talking they can do and all of that, I am very, very excited to see what this is. It looks like with this move, Playground is solidifying themselves as,
Yes.
A powerhouse to be reckoned with. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do.
I mean, it's great. Powerhouse. There was a quote from somebody, and again, I don't have it in front of me, but if you talk to, at least this is a report that came out many years ago, that Playground Games wanted to be the best developer in the world. And I gotta be honest with you, what they showed at this Direct, Hargeet, was proof positive that they know not only how to continue to make racing games in Forza, they took what is considered like the darling of RPGs for Xbox first party, and they not only gave it a Witcher-like adult graphic look, which is something I was really hoping for. It appears they have really retained everything that made the original trilogy something special. But what were your thoughts on the Direct itself?
Yeah, so like Forza Horizon, it's Forza Horizon, so it was good. Very interesting that you can like build your complex, and like so you have a bit more there. It's interesting they added that capability. They just seem to always up the ante, right? So they always have something new. They had a bunch of new things they showed there. Looks cool, great. For fans of racing, it's going to be a fun game. It'll be in Game Pass. It'll be a delay on PlayStation. Fair enough, whatever. But yeah, so it looks pretty cool. We got the date, May 19th. A little bit of controversy in the if you want to buy the early access through upgrading to the premium edition, mostly for Game Pass people, right? You pay a little bit more. It's $60 versus $120 if you just bought the game outright. So it's a $10 premium, it's just an odd thing to do, but it is what they're doing. So if you want to get the early access and you're a Game Pass subscriber, yep, you won't have to pay the $70. But if you want to get early access, it's $60 versus a $50 bump if you just buy it for $120, right? So there's something odd there, but fair enough. Next was Beast of Reincarnation. And that looked pretty good. It looks interesting. It's one of those other ones that they, like they've had these like Wu Changs and Wolongs and all like these games that they've been doing on the Asia front. So it's another one of those. Game Freak kind of doing something totally different. It has some interesting elements to it. We'll see how it is. The beauty is, for me, of course, it's just a download. It's in Game Pass day and date. I will check it out when it comes out and see what it's all about. But it looks cool. It looks kind of cool, right? We'll see how that goes. And then they introduced Kiln, and that is rather intriguing. It's actually kind of an interesting game, right? So you're designing and building clay pots, and then you bash everybody with them. So a nice little party type game. Could be interesting. We'll see what they do with it. But they certainly seem to enjoy it. So we'll see how that plays out. That one is coming to everything, but it's not coming to the platform I expected it to come to, which is Switch. I think that game would be really, really good on Switch. I'm not sure why that's not there. Maybe they just didn't have the bandwidth to put it there. There's other notable interesting things that game was able to be made because they have the knowledge in the Xbox Studios arena, right? Because they themselves, Double Fine, it was going to be challenging for them to kind of make an online multiplayer, but they were able to reach out to others. I think they were able to reach out to Rare and ask how you made Sea of Thieves. How did you do that? How did you get the online multiplayer stuff working, right? So, but that's kind of the beauty of being in a large publishing house like that. They have so much more talent available to them that they can just leverage, right? They can say, hey, how can I take this? How can I do that? Right? And they were able to do that. That's pretty cool, right? So awesome for them. That's still not the main game. This is still a side joint. But it looks kind of funny. It looks kind of interesting. It kind of gave me like Mario Party vibe, like something where you just have family fun, right? But yeah, I'm surprised it's not on Switch. And then the pièce de résistance. Fable comes along. This was the one that was like, is it gonna suck or is it gonna be good? And man, oh man, I was like so happy, like you're saying, Santa, excited. Oh my god, like everything. They just checked the box. Yes, character creator. Yes, open world. Yeah, like in the open world, by the way, you can go immediately after the first opening cutscene. You can go anywhere you want. You will not be level capped or anything like that. You can go anywhere you want. And you can enjoy that area, and it will not hamper your experience. Like saying, oh, well, you're only level 5. You can't really hit those level 50 guys over there. Nope, it's going to keep up with you. So you can go anywhere in the map, at any time, enjoy that area. They put stuff everywhere so that you can enjoy whatever's there. So music to my ears. Like everything was like, yes, this is what you want, right? 1,000 NPCs, all voiced, all with their own life, all with their own things going on, all reacting to you in their own way. The morality system is based on not you making actions, but you doing actions that others see. If they don't see the action, they don't know about it. That's fantastic. So it's exactly the kind of thing you want to see, right? Like this is an evolution of that model. It's not just, oh, you killed that person, you're bad. You did good with that person, you're good. No, it's somebody has to witness you doing that, and that makes it a difference. And each person can have their own response to it. Somebody might like it and somebody might hate it. And each one will react differently. Totally freaking awesome. Like it's like the next step for these kind of things, right? I love it. So there's so much in this. That trailer was great, but there's like interviews afterwards, several of them. Go check those out. Get a lot more in-depth information about that. But Fable looks awesome.
It does. It really does.
Awesome. Yeah. So pretty much all the things I was looking for, except for co-op. I didn't hear anything about co-op. It may not be there. It's probably not there. Fine, fair enough. The one big other miss that people seem to be a little disappointed about was that there's no pet, right? And they decided early on they're not going to do that. That's not happening. So fair enough, whatever. But outside of that, my goodness, looks great. Play like and the combat. From just looks of it, it looks, kind of like an interesting combat mix of melee plus magic. Fonz was saying it reminded him of Hogwarts, and I'm like, yeah, it does. It does look like that, and like I can't wait to play it. I want to see play that game.
So
like,
a quick interjection about the combat. Interjection about the combat. Hogwarts very much a pull. A lot of people also said that the combat reminded them of The Witcher 3. We have confirmation that there's a Witcher 3 combat designer.
Yes, that is correct.
Ground.
Yes.
So there's that.
So, again, it looks great. Now the only thing is, where do you land it? They said autumn. I don't want this to land anywhere close to GTA. If it's ready to go, it's ready to go. If it's not, please delay it and put it out next year. I don't care. Like, I would rather it come out, be fully done, be ready, and not get hammered by something else. But I'm like very happy with where they are. I needed to see what they were doing with it, right? Because that was the big concern. This is a racing studio. Will they be able to land this at all? And it's like, what they've shown so far, I'm not nearly as concerned as I was before. So I'm very excited for this game. This was the game I was anticipating, right? Like when we were talking about what are you looking for next year? It's like, this was the game from Xbox I'm like looking forward to. All the other stuff is great, but I'm like, no, I'm looking for Fable. I want to see what they're doing with Fable. And boy, am I just happy with what they showed. So yeah, that was really good. This like totally shot that thing up to like a 9.5 for me. The Dev Direct was great. This made it like fantastic. It was just like ridiculous. That was awesome. That was the way to end that thing. It was, yes, this is great. So yeah, you can just tell from like how I'm talking about it. I'm ecstatic about what they did. That was great. So yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. A game for me came to mind. I don't know if anybody remembers playing this on the Xbox 360. It was so freaking good. It was marred by a lot of controversy. Kingdoms of Amalur Reckonings. Anybody remember that? Well, watching
I like
some
that
of this
game a lot.
combat, I love that combat.
Yeah,
And
that's
watching
Kurt Schilling's game, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
and
Kurt Schilling's game, made in Rhode Island.
yes, and McFarlane was also a part of the. He helped design some of the creatures in there as well. It was a pretty crazy thing how that game came to be. But some of the combat that I saw in Fable kind of, it wasn't one-to-one, obviously. It's much different. But yeah, I'm very excited. And the fact that we are getting both of those games this year, and I'd even say this, but the fact that PlayStation gamers are getting both. They're getting Fable day and date, which I did not expect. But you know what? Based on these numbers, this is what they want to do.
You can.
And they're going to make a lot of money. And I think that on the
back
back
end, I hope
end,
they do. That's the big
yes.
question, right? Because we're seeing it's not necessarily working. So I hope they do. I hope people buy it. We'll see. I think they'll do well with Forza. I think there's just a pull for that game for some reason. So, and it being in Japan, I think it will do some good numbers.
Yeah.
I just don't know with the other games. I just don't know. It's not a guarantee that they'll do well.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're gonna have to see, because gaming is in a really weird place. We talked about that to open up the show, but folks, listen, that's gonna do it for us here. A big thank you to all of these super chats. Shout out to King Webb. Salute to you, kind sir. Appreciate you being here as always. I am still under the weather. I am COVID free, but I feel like I was run over by a truck anyway. So no gym for me this week, but I'll get back to this week. And I've had a migraine since 6 o'clock this morning, and it just refuses to relent. And I'm still here, which of course, this is not hard work, but it's a lot. So ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here. Let's sell the brand of our incredible panel as always. Que Asante, sell the brand. I would imagine that this Saturday you have a lot to catch up with. And again, the news has been fast and furious. So sell the brand of the Gaming Circle podcast, which is 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday with you and Everborn Saga. I know that you're going to have a lot to talk about. Sell it, brother. Where can people check it out and subscribe to the YouTube channel?
First off, I hope you feel better, brother. You do still. You're on the mend, but you do still sound like you still have some.
I am a little red in the face, and it's probably because of this migraine that just refuses to kind of let me go. So thanks, Def Leopard. Appreciate you, brother.
We'll let you go soon. Well, so on this time, I will actually promote the Discord, because we've been doing some very fun stuff.
Yes,
today and yesterday we have started counting down. Well, we started with 64 games. We've started counting down to the top 10 NES games. And we're doing round for round. Every round, we're doing different seeds. Ultimately, we'll do like an elimination round and get to the top 10. Let's just say we had to do round one twice in 2 days because it was that damn contentious. It turned almost to digital fistfights. It was hilarious. Anyway, join us, discord.gg/TGCP. And by the way, if I don't explain it correctly, this is an audio event where we all just get on throughout our day, and we just and one person is charged with being the host and the moderator, and he just spits out, Mario Brothers 3 versus Castlevania, and then you have to sit there and deal with it. Yeah. This is what happened today, and we were just like, "Excuse me." Yeah, this is what happened. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. There was like at least 12, 13 people in there, and we're just going back and forth, and then ultimately we take a vote as to what gets it. And we're still early days, early rounds, so even if you don't win, you're just getting to the second seed, and then there's a chance for eliminations and stuff. We're going to be doing that with every platform, so come join us. Very, very fun. Of course, GCP on Saturdays, 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will have a great show for you this Saturday. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. And of course, Hargeet Chine, let's sell the brand, brother. Obviously, you have a YouTube channel on top of being on a lot of podcasts, but you also wrote a book last year called Emergence, which, of course, if you are a fan of Mass Effect, and well, who isn't, you might want to check out the book. Sell the brand, brother. Where can people find the book, not find you on social media, and potentially actually subscribe to your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so my channel is HargeetChiny1 if you want to subscribe, and then shop.chiny.us. I'm working on potentially an audiobook using AI. We'll see if it works out. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's kind of getting there. And anyway, so I'll be on with C Money and Doodle on Friday, 8 p.m. US Eastern Time. Check that out on Point for Gamers. And then I'll be on with Web Dave on Sunday, 7 p.m. US Eastern Time on Web Dave's channel. And then with Fonz Gaming on 7 p.m. US Eastern Time on Tuesday. And we'll be back next week to see how Xbox is, of course, always dead.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. Well, listen, gentlemen, and chat, thank you so much for being here. Big thank you to all the super chats, channel member chats, and gifted subs that continue to come in. Mrs. Boom and I will always be grateful for this kind of support. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, folks. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.